Speak out, speak to us all. I grieve for these, my people, far more than I fear for my own life. Very well, I will tell you what I heard from the god. Apollo commands us. He was quite clear. Drive the corruption from the land. Don't harbor it any longer, past all cure. Don't nurse it in your soil, root it out. How can we cleanse ourselves? What rights? What's the source of the trouble? Banish the man or pay back blood with blood. Murder sets the plague storm on the city. Welcome to Positive Read-Ins. Please support this channel and check out new literature by getting your copy of Commuting. You can link to it in the description. It would be greatly appreciated. That excerpt was from the opening of Oedipus Rex, or Oedipus the King. This is a drama written by the famous Greek dramatist Sophocles. It was written in 430 BC. This play was influential on Freud for his Oedipus complex. It was influential on Western literature in general, and it's famously cited by Aristotle as being an example of a great plot. Aristotle thought that plot was the most important element in a drama, and specifically plots that had recognition and reversal, and he thought that this one had both, in the sense that Oedipus recognizes, or through this process of trying to figure out who the killer of the prior king was, the King Laius, he finds out that it was him. That's the reversal. It's a reversal of his fortunes, and it's also a recognition that he was in fact the killer of his father and the lover of his mother. And in other ways, Oedipus represents modern Western man, this hunt for, this drive for progress, and the use of science as a way to know the world. Throughout the play, and this is mentioned in the introduction here, Oedipus uses scientific language, measurements. He's fully rational, he's ethical, he's trying to go about this, to fix this problem in the city through the modern means, and he's vanquished by that. The contrary to this rationality would be spirituality and prophecy in this play. So the practice of going to these kind of divines, these seers, people who have power to connect with the gods and interpret the future, and they give out their prophecies. And this was a time of a decline in the belief in these prophecies, and this play is showing that ultimately the prophecy comes out on top. The gods do have a role in these characters' lives. We see this early on. So after Creon comes back and tells him, okay, Apollo says we got to kill or banish the killer of Laius, the previous king, and then Oedipus gets Tiresias. This is the famous prophet to come, Tiresias. He is the man who lived as a woman for 7 years because he hit some snakes that were copulating, and they turned him into a woman. And then he hit them again 7 years later and went back. And famously, Zeus and Hera were discussing who enjoys love more, men or women. And Zeus says women, Hera says men. They bring in Tiresias to settle this. Tiresias sides with Zeus. Hera does not like this, so she blinds him, and Zeus in return gives this blind Tiresias the power to see into the future. And that's how we get, I would say, a trope in a lot of literature of this blindness that can see. We saw this in King Lear. Gloucester sees once he becomes blinded, and this is a common theme in much of literature. This the lack of that sight, giving you some greater insight. So Tiresias, when he comes, he's very standoffish. He's angry, or at least comes across as kind of angry towards Oedipus. He does not want to help. Then they get into kind of an argument. Tiresias at one point tells him, "This day will bring your birth and your destruction." Again, that's our reversal and recognition. He's going to realize who he is. That's his birth, but that will also be a destruction for him. Again, the theme here is that knowing too much brings upon hardship, brings upon destruction. And the opposite of ignorance is bliss. Shortly after that, too, he also says, "Your great fortune, true, it was your ruin." So again, this theme that the good things in life that we're after, that we try to attain, are going to be the end of us. And then he says, right as he's getting ready to leave, "I will go. Once I have said what I came here to say, I will never shrink from the anger in your eyes. You can't destroy me. Listen to me closely. The man you've sought so long, proclaiming, cursing up and down, the murderer of Laius, he is here. A stranger, you may think, who lives among you. He soon will be revealed, a native Theban. But he will take no joy in the revelation." Right? So Oedipus does not know that he's actually a native Theban. He was actually born there. His parents got rid of him at a young age because of a prophecy, and he came back, again, not knowing that that's actually his birthplace. "Blind who now has eyes, beggar who now is rich. He will grope his way toward a foreign soil, a stick tapping before him step by step." And that stick tapping is also a reference there to when Oedipus first came, the city of Thebes was under assault by the Sphinx, and they had to solve the riddle. And the riddle had to do with I think the answer was a man, essentially, that he starts off crawling as a baby, then walking, and then needs a stick, goes on 3 legs, something like that. So this is a reference to that. "Revealed at last, brother and father both, to the children he embraces, to his mother, son, and husband both. He sowed the loins his father sowed, he spilled his father's blood. Go in and reflect on that, solve that, and if you find I've lied, from this day onward, call the prophet blind." So this is quite early on in the play, only at, line 500 of, I would say, about a 1,600 line play, and Tiresias is essentially telling him that he's the guy, he's the one, though it takes a while longer before Oedipus realizes this himself. Of course, all the members in the audience would know this. This is a story, Oedipus, they know the story of Oedipus, and this is just one part of it. This is right when really he discovers the truth. But they would know this already, and that's one of the effects of this play. Throughout, we have a lot of dramatic irony because the audience knows what's going on, or they know how it's going to end. They know that Oedipus will discover himself to be the killer and blind himself. So there's a lot of references to sight and blindness. At the heart of this drama is the question of fate versus chance, and what kind of world do we live in? Do we live in a world where we have a destiny, or is this a blind universe where anything random can happen? Jocasta, this is Oedipus's mother and wife. She's siding on the random side, right? That the world doesn't really have a destined meaning, that things just happen. She believes this because she was given the prophecy that her son was going to kill her husband and marry her, so they threw the baby away. She believes ending the child's life, and then later her husband dies by Oedipus, but again, she doesn't know this. She just thinks it's from like a band of thieves. So she's rejected prophecy. And at one point she says, a prophet, this is when she's talking about the prophets that Oedipus is hearing from. A prophet, well then, free yourself of every charge. Listen to me and learn some peace of mind. No skill in the world, nothing human can penetrate the future. Here is proof, quick to the point. An oracle came to Laius one fine day. I won't say from Apollo himself, but his underlings, his priests, and it declared that doom would strike him down at the hands of a son, our son, to be born of our flesh and blood. And then she goes on to talk about, again, the story that everyone is familiar with, the one I've already said. So she did not comply. They did not comply with this. They fought against it, and so she believes that there's a way around prophecy, as she says here. Listen to me and learn some peace of mind. No skill in the world, nothing human can penetrate the future. These prophets, they're just humans. They don't know what they're doing. This comes up again later. Some pages later, she says, Jocasta says, Apollo was explicit. My son was doomed to kill my husband. My son, poor defenseless thing, he never had a chance to kill his father. They destroyed him first. So much for prophecy. It's neither here nor there. From this day on, I wouldn't look right or left. And then Oedipus says, true, still that shepherd, someone fetch him now. Right, so he's adamant to discover what really happened. Get this shepherd who apparently witnessed, in this case, this is the shepherd that threw the child away. Let's get this shepherd. Let's find out about him. He's also trying to get the one witness to the murder of Laius, because he wants to know what's going on. And Jocasta says, I'll send at once, but don't let's go inside. I never displease you, least of all in this. So again, she's saying we don't need to worry about prophecy. And this is interestingly followed by the chorus. The chorus is used throughout this play to kind of express the feeling that the audience has, to catch us up on what's going on, but mainly to kind of reflect our feelings that we could be having or should be having. And on this part, right after Jocasta says this, the chorus says, pride breeds the tyrant, violent pride, gorging, crammed to bruising with all that is overripe and rich with ruin. So they see her as being too prideful here in this idea that we don't need prophecy. And then later they say, never again will I go reverent to Delphi. That's where famous place, Delphi, where they go to hear the oracle, Apollo's oracle. The inviolate heart of earth, or Apollo's ancient oracle at Abe, or Olympia of the fires, unless these prophecies all come true, for all mankind to point toward and wonder. King of kings, if you deserve your title, Zeus, remember, never forget you and your deathless everlasting reign. They are dying, the old oracles sent to Laius. Now our masters strike them off the rolls. Nowhere Apollo's golden glory now. The gods go down. So the chorus sees that it seems that the prophets are failing. Prophecy cannot be relied on, and if that's the case, they won't go. The chorus, which again represents all the people, they're not going to go anymore to get the prophecies. They're not going to believe in the gods anymore. And if this is not true. So this is this inner conflict between, we could say, maybe science and religion, or the idea of kind of a objective scientific knowledge and this kind of faith in gods and in the unexplainable. And it would appear at this point that the gods are losing, the gods are going down, but of course we have this reversal that comes shortly after. On this same topic, kind of Jocasta's last word on this, she says, this is after a messenger comes and lets Oedipus know that who he believes to be his real father, which isn't, that's the king of Corinth, has actually died, and they want Oedipus to come back and be king. He doesn't want to do that because he's afraid about being near who he believes to be his mother. He doesn't realize, of course, that Jocasta is his mother. And so he's afraid to go back. And Jocasta says, fear? What should a man fear? It's all chance. Chance rules our lives, right? So there we go. We got that very modern explanation about the world. Chance rules our lives. We can't control anything. Not a man on earth can see a day ahead, groping through the dark. Better to live at random, best we can. And as for this marriage with your mother, have no fear. Many a man before you in his dreams has shared his mother's bed. Take such things for shadows, nothing at all. Live, Oedipus, as if there's no tomorrow. So don't worry about the future. Live as there's no tomorrow, because you can't control anything, and it's better to live at random, as she said. So again, this is I would say, a popular ideology. Certainly at the time, there is this tension between these two ways of living, and this might even exist today, just in more developed, maybe, or sophisticated ways. Oedipus, however, being kind of the modern man, the proto Enlightenment figure, he must know. So he says, let it burst, whatever will, whatever must. I must know the truth, no matter how common it may be. I must see my origins face to face. So at this point, he's just afraid that maybe he comes from common origins, not fitting of a king to be a king. But it's far worse than that. Perhaps she, with her woman's pride, may well be mortified by my birth. He's talking about his wife, Jocasta, because she's getting angry that he keeps trying to find out what's happening, or find out what happened as a child, and also what happened to Laius, because she's starting to get this inkling that, oh my God, this is actually my son, and she would rather just live in the ignorance of that and not have it all come out. Perhaps she, with her woman's pride, may well be mortified by my birth, but I count myself the son of chance. The son of chance, that's what he believes. Again, this is our dramatic irony. The great goddess, giver of all good things. I'll never see myself disgrace. She is my mother, and the moons have marked me out. My blood brothers, one moon on the wane, the next moon great with power. That is my blood, my nature. I will never betray it, never fail to search and learn my birth. So this is the drive of Oedipus, to discover and find out who he is, what is the origin, what is the meaning of life. And in that, he really reflects, I would say, the Western project in general, from this time on to now. Despite Tiresias essentially telling Oedipus the truth, it takes some time longer, to maybe about 1,300 or so, that he actually recognizes what is the truth, that he is the killer of his father, the lover of his mother. This drives Jocasta to actually kill herself. A messenger tells us this. This happens off stage, so it's just told to the audience. And we also get a description about Oedipus, what he does to himself. So after he sees his wife there, the messenger tells us, he, being Oedipus, rips off her brooches, the long gold pins, holding her robes and lifting them high, looking straight up into the points. He digs them down the sockets of his eyes, crying, You'll see no more the pain I suffered, all the pain I caused. Too long you looked on the ones you never should have seen. The ones you never should have seen are his children, because they shouldn't have been born. He shouldn't have had children with his mother, so he's looked on them too long. Blind to the ones you long to see, to know. Blind from this hour on. So for too long, he's looked on the children that he shouldn't have seen, and he was blind to the fact that the people he actually wanted to see, his parents, were right there in front of him, and he didn't realize that. Or at least his wife was right there in front of him. The father was only briefly before he killed him. So we've got this self-harm here with a purpose to take control of some part of his destiny, but also to blind himself from this. The part about taking control of his destiny, this is mentioned later, just a few pages later. Oedipus says, Apollo, friends, Apollo, he ordained my agonies, these my pains on pains. But the hand that struck my eyes was mine alone, no one else. I did it all myself. What good were eyes to me? Nothing I could see could bring me joy. And that there, but the hand that struck my eyes was mine alone, no one else. This is a small consolation that Oedipus is in some control of his life, even if it's just how he harms himself. And this is essentially how the play ends. Eventually he gets to see his, or hold his children's hand for a little while. One of those children is Antigone, and that becomes another part of this play, the cycle of these plays, right? This is the three Theban plays. To get some critical insight into this play, I'm going to read a few excerpts from a longer essay called On Misunderstanding the Oedipus Rex by a guy named Dodd, D-O-D-D. And he is I believe a professor at Oxford, or was a professor at Oxford, and he was reading a bunch of essays for an exam on Oedipus Rex, and he said all the responses kind of fell into three categories. One way people interpreted the play was they thought that the message in this play is we get what we deserve. Their argument there was that essentially Oedipus wasn't a very good guy. He rejects this. Dodd rejects this. The other one is that the tragedy of destiny, or it is a tragedy of destiny, and the message is that we have no free will. And lastly, that Sophocles wasn't really interested in the gods at all. This is just part of the time period, and he wasn't really trying to take sides on whether the gods are actually real, or trying to explain our life to us, or have a place in our life. That it's just part of kind of the circumstances of these plays. Dodd rejects all three of these, but he doesn't really get into specifics as to why. But he gives his own kind of reading of this play and why he thinks it's important. And I think it's interesting. He says, what fascinates us is the spectacle of a man freely choosing from the highest motives a series of actions which lead to his own ruin. Oedipus might have left the plague to take its course, but pity for the suffering of his people compelled him to consult Delphi. When Apollo's words came back, he might still have left the murder of Laius uninvestigated, but pity and justice required him to act. So he's saying here that Oedipus didn't have to act. Thebes is being, kind of attacked by a plague. He could have just let the plague continue, but instead he tries to find out, what do the gods say? How can we end this? And same thing when they said, well, you got to find the killer of Laius. He could have just, he didn't have to pursue that either, but he did. Tiresias, Jocasta, the herdsman, each in turn tries to stop him. But in vain. He must read the last riddle, the riddle of his own life. So all these different characters throughout the play try to stop Oedipus. They would rather live in this ignorance of who Oedipus really is, even though they know. They try to stop him, but he refuses. He needs to find out. The immediate cause of Oedipus's ruin is not fate or the gods. So this would be response to the second interpretation about no free will. No oracle said that he must discover the truth, and still less does it lie in his own weakness. What causes his ruin is his own strength and courage, his loyalty to Thebes, and his loyalty to truth. So it's not that he has no free will, it's that he is determined to find out what is really happening and save the city, but also find out who this killer is. Oedipus mutilates himself because he can face neither the living nor the dead. But why if he is morally innocent? Once again, we must look at the play through Greek eyes. The doctrine that nothing matters except the agent's intention is a peculiarity of Christian and especially of post-Kantian thought. So it's the Christians and the Kantians who look at intention in a crime, and he's saying that this is not the case with the Greeks. It is true that the Athenian law courts took account of intention. They distinguished, as ours do, between murder and accidental homicide committed in the course of self-defense. If Oedipus had been tried before an Athenian court, he would have been acquitted of murdering his father. But no human court could acquit him of pollution, for pollution is inherent in the act itself, irrespective of motive. And this last part is kind of a pretty brutal kind of perspective. Reminds me a lot of the Schopenhauerian ethical system that also gets taken over in Nietzsche. I don't remember the exact quote from Nietzsche, but it's something like, when awful things happen to someone, it makes us wonder if the person might not be awful. So it's this idea that certain acts create a pollution that we can't get rid of. So even if we are innocent of them, we have this pollution about us that we can't get rid of. And then he wraps this up by saying, certainly the Oedipus Rex is a play about the blindness of man and the desperate insecurity of the human condition. In a sense, every man must grope in the dark as Oedipus gropes, not knowing who he is or what he has to suffer. We all live in a world of appearance, which hides from us who knows what dreadful reality. And again, to me, this sounds like another Schopenhauerian reference. We all live in a world of appearance. You know, Schopenhauer's great book is The World as Will and Appearance. Again, I'm not sure about how much Schopenhauer Dodd has read and how he's applying that to this play, but it seems like it's there in his perspective. But surely the Oedipus Rex is also a play about human greatness. Oedipus is great, not in virtue of great worldly position, for his worldly position is an illusion which will vanish like a dream, but in virtue of his inner strength to pursue the truth in whatever personal cost, and strength to accept and endure it when found. This horror is mine, he cries, and none but I is strong enough to bear it. Oedipus is great because he accepts the responsibility of all his acts, including those which are objectively most horrible, though subjectively innocent. I think that's a great point to bring up again. He's great because he's going to accept the things that even he is they're objectively horrible, but he's subjectively innocent. He did not kill his father knowingly. He did not marry his mother knowingly, but the fact that he did it, these are objectively horrible things, and he has to bear the cost of them. To me personally, Dodd says, Oedipus is a kind of symbol of the human intelligence which cannot rest until it has solved all the riddles, even the last riddle, to which the answer is that human happiness is built on an illusion. Again, very Schopenhauerian there as well. And a good note to end on. So the play, it is a tragedy, but as Dodd points out here, I think it has an uplifting message about discovering ourselves within the tragedy of the everyday.